All right, everybody. So we are going to go ahead and get logged in so we can start Photoshop today. I'm already logged into my Google account, my MS Tech Ed student account. You can either click the link on the assignment, or you can go to launchpad.classlink.com, which gets you to here. We're going to go ahead and click Adobe and Photoshop as well. And you can see that I'm zoomed out a little bit. It's a little smaller than normal. I have the zoom set a little bit smaller. So this probably worked really well for those of you using a Chromebook. So just be patient with this opening here. You will likely have to log back in, so don't get too excited about this. It's annoying, but it is what it is. If you don't log in with an enterprise ID, that's okay. Well, let's try it without that. Let's see what it does if we don't do it with the enterprise. Oh, sorry, I'm using my wrong address. Let's see if it picks up that I'm a student. I don't know why you have to do it twice here, but you do. And it's probably going to make us, yeah, these are hard. I have a tough time telling what these are. I don't know if that's a T or an R. Let's see. Did I do it? Yes, I did it. All right. And go ahead and put your password here. And we are almost into Photoshop. We are into Photoshop. There you go. You can see that mine's a little bit smaller here. Again, it's because I've gone up here and I've done zoom. So you guys can play around with that if you like. Zoom it in, zoom it out. And now we're ready to go ahead and start our assignment. So we are going to create new in this situation right here. And the first thing we're going to do is go over here. We're going to change it to pixels as opposed to inches. This is really important. If you leave it as inches, when I put 800 in here, you don't want something that's 800 inches wide. That's going to cause some problems on our server. So make sure that it's pixels. And we're going to do this as 600. So 800 pixels wide, 600 pixels high, and a resolution of 72 pixels per inch. Everything else you can leave the same and click create. If you can't find the create button, everybody, it's because your screen isn't large enough to show it. So you may have to come up here and drag this window up a bit. You may also have to go into here and zoom out a little bit to maybe 80 or 70%. The create button is definitely there. All right. So go ahead and click create. And there we are. It opens it up. Now, the one thing that's a little bit annoying about running Photoshop remotely is we're supposed to see something down here that says layers, and it just won't show up by default. So if you go up here to window, workspace, essentials is checked, which is good. It's the default. You also want to come down here to reset essentials. And lo and behold, there shows layers up. All right. It's something that we have to do on a all the time because of us running it remotely. It's annoying, but it is what it is. If layers doesn't show up, you can also go up here to window and just make sure that layers has a check by it. All right. Next, I'm going to have you go down here. There's a garbage can. Don't click that. But right next to the garbage can, there is a little create a new layer button. You're going to create 3 of them. So I clicked it once. I clicked it twice. I clicked it a third time. I'm going to double click where it says layer 3, and I'm going to call this a blue ellipse. I'm going to double click where it says layer 2, and I'm going to call this a red circle. I'm going to double click this, and I'm going to call it a green square, right? And if you right click, which is on the right hand side of the mouse, I can label this. So I'm going to make this one blue. I'm not using a mouse, I'm using the trackpad, which is I'm not the greatest with. I'm going to make this one red, and this is just a label. It actually doesn't color what's inside of it. Make this one green. Just helps you recognize it a little bit. Okay, now we're going to get into our first part of our drawing. So if we go to the, I'm going to make sure I'm in the blue ellipse layer. How do I change layers? I literally just come over here and click, and it changes the layer that I'm in. I'm going to be in the blue ellipse layer, and I'm going to go to the second tool down, and I'm going to click and hold that button down, and the elliptical marquee tool pops up. And I'm just going to, sorry guys, I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to draw an ellipse. So make it look like an egg, okay? Over here, this is your delete that. There we go. This is it for you guys. If you can't see a lot of your menu here, sometimes you'll get a little like bar, a slider bar over here that you can slide up or down to see what you're missing below here. But I'm not missing anything. So on this one, I am going to do, I'm going to click the foreground layer here, and I'm going to choose a blue that I like. So if I slide the slider bar here, you can pick different shades of blue. Just find something that you like, click it. You see it grabbed it here, and just say okay. And now I can go edit, fill. You have to change content aware to the foreground color because that's the foreground color right there. I'm going to say okay, and there it is. All right. The little marching ants is what I call them. That is a marquee. To get rid of the marquee, you can just do select and deselect. All right. So we did layer one, our blue ellipse. We're going to click into red circle, and we're going to just keep the same elliptical marquee tool. This time, to draw a perfect circle, we're going to hold the shift key down as we draw, and check it out. All you can draw is a perfect circle. So I'm going to go back to my blue. I'm going to come up here and choose a shade of red that I like, so maybe something a little more fire engine red. I'm going to choose that and say okay. Edit, fill with the foreground color because it's red down here. I'm going to say okay. Select and deselect gets rid of my marquee. All right. I'm going to goof up my third layer here. I'm going to forget on purpose to click into the green square layer. All right. I'm going to show you guys how to fix an error if you make it. So I'm going to go to my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to make not just a rectangle, but I want to make a square, which is equal sides. So to make a perfect square, I'm going to hold the shift key down and just drag. All right. Sorry about that. I actually bumped the pause button on my screen capture. I'm going to click red and change it to a green. Choose a green that I like. I'm going to say okay. Now, on purpose, I forgot to choose the green square layer. I left it in red circle, which you guys will likely do at some point or another. So edit, fill with the foreground color, and you're going to see, uh-oh, I put it in the wrong layer. Not a huge deal. In Photoshop, you can always undo things. So if you do edit, undo, fill, it takes it away from here. I can go into the green square layer, and now I can go to edit, fill with the foreground color. And I can do select and deselect. All right. Now, a couple things I want to show you here. You can turn your layers on and off, which is not something you can do in a normal drawing program. If I click the move tool, and I'm in the green layer right now, I can move that green layer separate of the other ones. I can move the red layer separate of the other. I can move the blue separate of the other. Now, the one thing I want you to notice blue is above red, red's above green. Over here, blue is above red, red's above green. So if you're like, well, what if I'd rather green be in between blue and red? All you've got to do is grab that layer and slide it in between there. And check it out. Now, green is in between the blue and the red layer. So this is a great program when you have to move things from the foreground to the background, which we will absolutely do as we move forward. Okay? So there's that. The last layer that I want you to do is I want you to add your name. So we're going to go to the text tool right here. We choose the text tool. Go ahead and click this. And I want you to add your first name and your last name. Sorry. Sometimes you have to double click that. First, last. Now that's really hard to see. So if I highlight that text, just like if you would in like Microsoft Word or something, if you highlight it and you come up to here, you can very easily change that font size to something bigger. If 72 is the biggest that it shows on there, but if you're like, nah, I need it to be 100, all you gotta do is hit 100, hit enter, and there it is. You can change the text font, or the font, sorry. You can change the font. So maybe you pick a different font that is something that you would like a little bit better. That one's kind of boring. I don't like that one. There we go. That one's nice. You can change the color. So you can go up here to purple. Maybe you want a purple, and you can change the color, right? And then just hit the check, and there it is. Your text is in its own layer. You can go in and you can actually move your text with a text tool, okay? If you want to go back and you want to edit your text at a later time, you have to make sure you're in the text layer. You have to make sure you have the text tool selected. And then I like to click in between the first and the second letters till I get a cursor there. And then I just highlight everything. So I want to show you guys one final thing here. Let me change this text color to something that's a lot harder to see, right? So if you choose that, you're like, that doesn't show up very well. Let me show you a really cool technique in order to make this show up really well. So if you go over to the text layer and you right click it, and you right click it, there we go, that's what I was trying to get it to do. Blending options, we're looking for blending options. Looks like it's probably up here. There we go, blending options. When blending options pop up, these are a whole bunch of different techniques and additions you can add. So I always use this outlines your text. So if you click that, you'll see that it puts an outline on it. If you actually click the word itself, you can play around with the qualities of it. So I'm going to make this on the outside. I can make this thicker or thinner, whatever you so choose. I'll make it like 2. You can also just type it in, make it 2. You can change the color if you want. So maybe I want to go with that two-tone, and I go with a purple color. So I always outline, I always hit stuff with a drop shadow too. And you can just sort of see that it put it on there. It's defaulting to multiply. Normal makes it look a little bit better. The opacity is only at 35%. We want to make this up to 100 so you can see what's going on. And as I start to pull the distance away from this a little bit, you can see it starting to show. Pull the spread out here a little bit. Maybe the size out here a little bit. And you can change the angle. So it basically changes the angle of where the sun is at so that you can change where your drop shadow is showing, right? So if I just say, okay, you guys can play around with that. There's lots of other things that you can add to it as well too. If I roll down here to my text, you'll see that it puts an effect on it. If I turn the effect back off, it obviously, it really shows up a lot better with that on there. One other quick thing that I want to show you. When I'm in the text layer, if I come up to here, right now this text layer doesn't have any style. I can give it a little style. And there's a lot you can choose. I'm just going to choose an arc. I'm going to arc it the opposite way. And I'm going to say okay. All right. So I'd like you to at least do some effects on your text layer. You can also go back in on any one of your other shapes here that you have, and you can right click it and go to blending options, and you can do it on those as well. I'm not going to, for the sake of keeping the video as short as I possibly can. Now, we have to save this, and we probably should have saved it a little sooner, but you want to do that as often as you can, just in case we have an issue with the server. All right, so our final step here is to go ahead and save this file. Now, you may notice that this looks a little different than the one we were working on. I have to patch in a different save method here at the end because we've changed it as we've evolved throughout the marking period, throughout the year actually. So save this file, save as. You're not going to save to the cloud documents. You're going to save on your computer. So go ahead and click there. You're going to go to Google Drive. In Google Drive, you're going to browse to Classroom. You're also going to browse to the Tech Ed folder. And I have a bunch of them here, right? So you want to make sure, don't necessarily choose the one I'm choosing here. You want to choose your Tech Ed folder. So I'm going to choose this marking period 3. And what I'm going to save this file as right here is your first name, your last name. Don't type first and last. Type your first name, your last name, layers. And you're just going to go ahead and click save. You can see I already have one up here on the top. Notice it has the .psd. It puts that in there. You don't have to put it in down here. So your first name, your last name, layers. I'm going to override it. Say OK. And then to go and hand this in, if I go back to the original assignment right here, for you to hand it in right here, all you're going to have to do is click Add or Create, Google Drive. You're going to go out to your Google Drive and you're going to actually find that file right here. And click Insert. And you're going to turn it in. And once you turn it in, everything is good to go. I will turn it back to you. You'll have a grade in here. If there's something wrong with it, I'll enter a comment in here. And that's how you turn this assignment in. Have a great day.